Alright, I just want to make sure this is up and running before I say anything. Alright, so we're good. I've noticed a lot of new players in Snowrunners, and I am no means professional, but I have a few tips for the beginners that may pick up this game and not know what to expect. First off, you'll start in Michigan Blackwater, or Black River, sorry. And if I remember right, this is the truck you will start out with. It's been a while. If this isn't the same truck, I'm sorry. It's been a really long time. But this is just a video to give like the beginner tips and tricks for people that are getting the game or thinking about getting the game. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them. This is going to be a long video because this is streamed and saved. So this is just going to be like tip after tip, or at least I'm going to try to. This is going to be like a good video for like if you're chilling or if you're downloading the game. This is going to be a good video for that. But anyway, this is going to be the first truck, if I remember right, although this isn't going to be the same exact truck because it has a bit of modifications on it. And the first tip is, if you don't like operating in the dark, you can go into the menu, see the map, press triangle. Now it's daytime. And I'm sorry if you hear anything in the background. This is going to be all uncut because I can't exactly edit a live stream, but first few tips of operating on your truck. If you press up, you'll be given a menu on the left side. In the upper left, it'll show you the stats of your truck, and in the lower left, it'll show you the damage of the truck, like the damage points. Or if you press triangle, it'll show you exactly what part is damaged. Now for operating the truck, first start the engine so you can see everything. And the little white circles you saw that popped up, those are winch points. So if your truck gets stuck or if you're trying to help someone else, those are points on the truck that you can winch to, and say once you like select the point, you can see like over there I can connect to the pole. Other than that, there are different winches, but the starting one's fine until you get into scouts, but we'll talk about that later. Now with trailers, most of the time you're going to have to hook them up yourself, so you're going to have to back up to the trailer close enough in order to attach to it. The second thing is stop engine. So instead of just sitting there running your engine while you're like AFK or whatever, turn the engine off. This game has fuel consumption, and each truck has a different fuel consumption type. And you can tell what the fuel consumption is because in the upper left it tells you the grade, and also when the truck is on, it'll tell you how many gallons or liters per minute you have it set to. So if you're on the metric, it'll tell you how many liters per minute it's taking in, or if you're on Imperial, it'll say gallons per minute. In this game, you can have up to 4 trucks active, I believe. Or no, I think it's more than that. Don't quote me on that. I think it's actually 6. But you can have multiple trucks active anyway. So you can press change truck, and if you're in the vicinity of a truck, like a different truck, you can change to that truck. So you can have multiple trucks active. So besides the trucks that you have active, in a brand new map there will be like stagnant trucks where you can either repair them and you can bring them back to your garage, or you can just find them and you can bring them back, and you can either keep them or sell them for extra money. Because the main source of income in this game is going to be doing jobs. And if you ask me, what you're going to want to do is just go around the map, pick up just like the random trailers, and bring them back to the garage and sell them. Well, the trailer store, which the trailer store is next to the garage, but there's also other trailer shops scattered throughout the map. Other than that, the next one would be delete trailers, which I haven't used. Which I think the only reason you would ever delete a trailer is in like extreme circumstances where your truck is flipped over and you're kind of just sitting there raging. So you just delete the trailer and then just recover your truck to the garage and just start the job over again. And then there's recover, where if you press this, it will recover you to the garage you have discovered and opened. And then beacons, which is just the light on top of the truck. And then there's remove cargo, and I think there's also other options as you get different trucks and different trailers and whatnot. But basically just experiment with the menu. Most of it's self-explanatory. Alright, so that's the menu. And now on the right side of the screen, you will see like your gear shift and your all-wheel drive and differential lock and handbrake. Every time you come out of the garage, you're going to have the handbrake on. If you have the handbrake on, you're not going to go anywhere very fast. So you're going to have to take that off in order to drive. The gearbox, you're going to have to hold L1 in order to get to that. You can put it in neutral, automatic, low, or reverse, which in automatic, you press R2 to go forward, L2 to go backwards. Now, the reason why this gear shift is set up like this is because if you're in low, or if you're in like some like really deep mud, you're going to want to put it in low, put it in all-wheel drive, and put differential locks on. That way you're getting maximum traction out of your truck as you can. And in order to keep the differential lock on while going forwards and backwards, you're going to have to shift from low to reverse. Because if you have differential locks on some trucks, it will actually take it off. But there are other trucks where you can keep the differential lock on and all-wheel drive on at the same time and keep it in automatic. But that doesn't mean that the low range isn't going to be useless, because low range is meant for when you're in really deep mud. You can drive through in one single gear, because in an automatic it will keep changing gears. Now there's actually a tip I learned recently that's not really taught in the game, but you can kind of force shift if you can listen to the engine rev. So if you're driving and you can hear the engine revving like really high RPMs, just tap the L1 while it's in automatic, and it will shift to the gear that it's supposed to be in. But automatic can be frustrating at times, so it's better to just go in low gear when you're trying to like climb a hill, or if you're going through really deep mud. I think when you start off the game, you don't have all-wheel drive and you don't have differential locks. So with this truck, it's a heavy duty truck, I believe. I don't know, it doesn't say. I don't know all the trucks off the top of my head. I'm not some pro. Although this truck is modified, this is basically the same truck you start off with, I believe. If not, it's not that far off because there is another truck that looks exactly like this. So anyway, I'm gonna drive to the garage to show you where that is. Although when you first start this game, you're not going to be able to get to. You're not going to be able to get to the garage right away because you have to do like a certain job, if I remember right, before you can go to the garage, because you have to build this bridge over here. Which after that, you should have like I think 2 or 3 trucks at that point, along with a few trailers that you could sell if you want to. But you go this way and you go to the garage, and the garage stores all your trucks. You can buy trucks from the garage. And if you keep seeing me like going all over the road, it's because I'm not used to this type of truck. Which I guess one good tip right now to tell you is some of these trucks oversteer. So if you're turning, sometimes it'll keep turning in that direction, which kind of mimics real driving, because most of these older trucks don't have power steering. So when you're turning, you kind of have to overturn, and then you have to turn left to go straight. Once you start playing, you'll understand. Another good thing to start learning pretty quick in the game is to start learning your terrain. Like right now, I'm on asphalt roads. I'm gonna be fine. Like I'm not gonna get stuck on nothing. Now, if you like look over here, there's gonna be like a small amount of mud. Now with like a beginner truck that has like some slick tires, like highway tires, you might get stuck in that. As silly as it sounds. Oh yeah, and the traffic signs, they're just suggestions. There's literally no traffic laws in this game. You just do your own thing. You want to go mudding in a massive ass truck, go mudding in a massive ass truck. But as you can see, even with mud tires on my truck, I don't even have to activate the all-wheel drive. But like I was saying, learning the terrain is probably going to be a good thing to learn fairly early, because then you'll realize when you can go into like certain mud, dirt, ice, and yes, there's ice in this game, hence the name Snowrunners, but you don't got to worry about that until later on in the game. Well, this is the Black River garage. Over there in that little corner is the trailers, and then over there is where you enter the garage. But one thing I forgot to mention earlier is with the gearbox, when you hold L1, for some reason, I don't know why it doesn't show this, but if you hold L1 and tap X, it will start and stop the engine. So you don't gotta do it through the menu. Also, in this game, I don't think it tells you, but if you look through the control scheme, it'll show it. But if you hold L1 and press circle, it'll turn on headlights. Standard headlights will give you some illumination. It's not going to be the best. So I would prefer like fog lights, searchlights, you know, like the type of lights that go across the top of the truck, because then it lights up everything. You're going to be able to see everything. Like, hold on, if I can turn this back to nighttime. It's dark enough. And let's go a bit darker. Alright, so it's midnight. This is about as dark as it's going to get. See, parking lights are not going to give you much illumination at all. So no matter how many parking lights you have, it might look cool, but it's not going to illuminate shit. So, depending on what type of truck you have, you're going to have multiple lights on a stock truck. And you can change the bumpers of the truck, and sometimes it'll add lights to it. Like this one is a fairly new bumper I put on. So when I turn on the lights, it'll also turn on the lights on the bumper too. Now that's fairly good illumination with just basic lights, but if I get a different truck out and you see the difference between this truck's basic illumination and then a truck that has a lot of lights on it, you'll see the difference. Now I'm just gonna make this a quick tip to get it out of the way so I don't gotta do it later. When you're doing jobs, it will tell you what you need. I don't know if this would do it. Okay, it does. It'll say, like, the flatbed semi-trailer. It costs $6,600. And it gives you 5 spaces for cargo. Each different cargo type is going to need a different amount of spaces. Like, metal beams are going to take up 2 spaces. Where, if I went to the warehouse right now, it would tell me how many spaces that cargo type takes up. So learning that is also going to be a good thing. So like if you do a job, you're going to be like, alright, I need this many slots for this job. But anyway, this is the garage. Okay, so I was somewhat right in the first part. You can hold up to 6 trucks. Now, if you really wanted to, you could have a truck out, I think, for every truck type. Which, that's what I'm going to do. I don't have any highway trucks because highway trucks in this fucking game are just absolute trash. Don't even bother with highway trucks. Heavy duty trucks, which is the truck that I have, they're kind of a mix between a heavy truck and an off-road truck, because you can make them into almost anything you want. Because if you see this one, I'm working on getting the parts for this. This one is going to take over this one. Because if you look, it has better power to weight and better durability. So if I run into something, it's less likely to cause much damage. Also, it has just a small bit of more clearance than the other one. But there's 5 different types. Yeah, 5 different types of trucks, which is highway. Don't even bother with highway, because highway trucks offer little to nothing to benefit like any job. They're just fast and pointless. I can think of a number of trucks that I'd rather use than any highway truck, because I think there's only 3 highway trucks in the game. heavy duty trucks, they're kind of modular. You can make them into anything you want. You can put highway treads on there and basically make it into a highway truck if you wanted to. You can put mud tires on there, put a beefy engine in, and there you go. You got a hell of a powerful off-road truck. Like this one, it starts off with highway treads. It's lowered, has a weak engine, but look what I made it into. I wouldn't say it's a beast, but it's better than most trucks I've seen. This one, it's better than the other one, but I still need to get all-wheel drive and diff lock for it, because in most regions you're gonna want to have all-wheel drive and diff lock, because rear-wheel drive is not good in mud. Once you get the all-wheel drive in, it's good in light mud, but once you get into like the real heavy stuff, like going into like swamps and bogs and whatnot, you're gonna want the diff lock. Because with the diff lock, even though most trucks you need to be in low gear in order to even use it, you slow progress is better than no progress, and is better than having multiple trucks out trying to tow your ass across a bog. So that's one thing that you're going to want to look for in a truck is um, having all-wheel drive and diff lock at the same time. Suspension type, depending on it depends on the terrain. Where this one it's at stock height. I wouldn't need to raise it in the region that I'm in right now. But say if I went to like Russia or Alaska, I might want to raise that just so I can have a bit more clearance going through the rough terrain. Um, Tire types. Generally, you're probably going to want to go with off-road because your biggest enemy is going to be mud. And having the option to go through the mud is what you're going to want to do. And before I show all that, I'll go through the rest of the truck types. So anyway, heavy duties like modular, you can basically make it into a highway truck, off-road truck. You can make it in almost anything. Heavy trucks, on the other hand, they're meant to be the workhorse. They're meant to tow the things that a heavy truck or an off-road truck can't tow. Where it is possible to use an off-road truck or a heavy truck or a heavy-duty truck to tow big things, which I think the biggest thing I've hauled right now was a trailer. Although that doesn't sound big. The thing was huge, and it took me an hour to get it from one side of the map to the other. So, if I used one of these trucks, I probably would have got it to the other side of the map in no time. But the heavy trucks... they're kind of a luxury. Where they're not needed per se during the early game, but having them or buying them through DLC is a luxury. But also make sure you know what type of truck you're buying, because like I said before, in this region, you're going to want all-wheel drive and diff lock, although bogs are... I think there's only like 2 or 3 bogs. You're still going to want them. Because there's a lot of climbing, there's a lot of mud. It's going to be a challenge. So having some truck that has like off or having a truck that has like highway tires, it's not going to cut it. You're going to be slipping, sliding, and be struggling. Now you can see with different trucks, there's different stats. So like the power to weight, that's basically going to tell you like how much it can tow before it starts bogging itself out. The durability is kind of self-explanatory. If you hit something, it's less likely to cause damage. Where so with some trucks, they're so fragile, you go over a simple rock and it's gonna break something. Fuel consumption is how fast your fuel is gonna disappear, and you can tell how big your fuel tank is because right underneath fuel consumption is fuel capacity. Sometimes that can be confusing because it differs. Like this one says 64, you go out, it might say something else. I don't know if that's the same with every truck, but I've gone and used different trucks before, and it'll say like I'll have 120 gallons of fuel capacity, and I go out and it only has 70. It's weird. I don't understand it. But every truck is customizable. Every truck you have can be modified differently. But there is two more truck types. The next one is off-road. Off-road is probably going to be your main truck type. There's different types, but most of the time they're gonna come with an off-road tire of some sort. Some of them will have all-wheel drive. Some of them will have diff lock. But most of the time with off-road, you're gonna have pretty high clearance, so that way you're not like bottoming out like on rocks or something. You'll have an off-road tire of some sort or all-terrain tire. I forget all the tire types. I think there's highway, all-terrain, off-road, mud, and change tires. Where change tires you only need for when you're doing stuff on ice, which I haven't got to yet. Um, Off-road trucks will generally have higher clearance with the off-road tire type or all-terrain type. Most of them will have all-wheel drive. If you see some of these trucks, like this truck, I haven't even really worked on. I know it looks fancy, but it came with all-wheel drive and diff lock on, and if you look, it says always on. So that means I can be driving this truck in automatic, and all-wheel drive and diff lock are always on. So this thing's gonna speed right through mud with the correct tire anyway. Now there are some trucks that have diff lock, and if you use the diff lock too much, it'll start to overheat. So you have to either stop or turn the diff lock off, because there is a possibility to have a truck that has diff lock with low range a low range plus. So basically it's low range, but it's just a little faster. And when you do it like that, it overheats diff lock, and you either have to stop or you risk your transmission. Um, so The off-road trucks, they come in all sizes, as you can see. Like there's this little guy, and then you got these massive ones at the end. Which there's even bigger ones, if I remember correctly. Um, but off-road truck is probably one of the first trucks you're gonna want to try to get. I'll actually show the first off-road truck that you're gonna want to get, and it's gonna be this one. This is gonna be the very first off-road truck that you're gonna want to get. And as you can see, it has pretty good clearance. The suspension type is stock, but you can raise it. But if you look up where it says raise suspension, it says explore Alaska, North America to find this. So with some customizations to the trucks, you have to go to a certain region, scout out, and find the upgrade from there. But I've used this thing with just all-wheel drive and diff locks. I think with like all-terrain tires, and it did me fine up until I got into I think the third area in Michigan. I forget the name off the top of my head, but basically the whole place is just nothing but swamp. But this is gonna be like the first truck that you're gonna want to try to work towards to get, because the thing's powerful, it's pretty damn durable. The fuel consumption's iffy, but you can get a job done completely fine with the fuel consumption the way it is. But all you need to do with this truck, just get some, just get the all-wheel drive, which I think no, never mind. It comes with all-wheel drive and the diff lock already on it. It can just be switched on and off. If you can get a better winch, because the winch will save your life if you use it correctly. Tires, you're definitely going to want better tires than highway. Never use highway tires. There's literally no sense. The only thing that highway tires offer is speed on asphalt, which most of this game you're probably only on asphalt for maybe like 5% of the time. So there's no sense. So the best tires you can get, the better. All terrain is like the bare minimum. If you can't get off-road, or if you can't get mud tires, go with all terrain. It's not the best type, but it's also not the worst. Off-road is a little bit better, where you get more traction in mud and off-road. You still have a bit of control on asphalt, but it's not taking away too much. On some trucks, you will see that you need to have a raised suspension to fit a certain tire type, because on here it says that it's 46 inches. Now, if I go to a different truck, it'll say like it's like the base tire type is like 30 inches, and in order to get raised tires, or in order to get bigger tires, you need to have a raised suspension. And sometimes there's like multiple suspension types, so you gotta figure out what suspension type you need for those specific tires. Now, in my opinion, I don't think there's not much difference between the tires. Long as it's an off-road or long as it's a mud tire, it don't matter. It's just the change of style that I haven't seen any big difference. Like, if you like a certain tread type, go for it. But generally, the wider the tire, the better, because it tips less. So if you're going off-road and it's like a tilted road, you're gonna want tires that are a bit wider. So you see these ones, they're fairly wide, and then you get something like this. It might be good in the bog, but going off road onto like a corkscrew road or something that's a bit tilted, this thing would probably be more likely to tip. So mostly tires are whatever you want them to be, but equip your truck with what you think is going to be the best for the job. Now, this is another thing I've noticed. This says that it's a mud tire, so that means it's the best that you can get for an off-road truck. But as you can see, most mud tires are going to have a very aggressive tread. This one looks almost the same as an off-road one, but the look of the tire, I guess, doesn't mean anything. Just the width and the stats. Okay, so the last truck category is Scout. Scout is mainly meant for I forget what they're called. I call them like research towers, but basically when you go to a new region, there's going to be these dark circles covering the map, and you need to go to this tower in order to uncover those black circles. And say if there's like an upgrade or if there's like certain jobs within that area, it'll discover them so that way you can find them and pick up the upgrades. So scouts are generally small cars. They tend not to have a lot of power, but they have like really good fuel consumption. So even though that this only has like a small 30-gallon fuel capacity, I can probably scout an entire map before that thing completely empties. But there's all sorts of different scout types, to like your standard like normal everyday truck to all the way up to like an actual like military APC type of scout, where you got something like this thing. This is like one of the smaller scouts. Now, I did this one just kind of for shiggles because I thought it was a cool looking truck, so I just got it. Thought it'd be fun to play with when I get bored. Now, it has mud tires on it. It has a really high lift. But considering how high I've lifted it is kind of the downfall. Because even though I can clear a lot of good like trails, I have to drive very slow, because if I go too fast or go down a road too crazy, this truck flips easily. So when you're making a scout, kind of know your terrain a little bit. If you don't know the terrain, I would say it's better to overestimate it, like lift your truck as high as possible, but kind of find a good medium where it's kind of hard to understand what I'm talking about. Like, I'm trying to get a grasp of like the surrounding area, try to see if it's like if it's an area where you're going to need like a high lift. But if it's an area where it's like a lot of rocks and like mountains, and the roads are going to be tilted like high, like really steep hills and whatnot, do not have a high truck. Like this one, it's fairly low to the ground. Its center of gravity is fairly low. So I've only tipped this truck once. And that's because I was speeding around. But if you drive this thing slow over like rocks, trails, and whatnot, you're going to be fine. With this one, you're going to need to take extreme caution because of how high it is. If you put like a roof rack or anything on it, the thing's going to be top heavy. It's going to tilt over easily. Now, the one truck that you can start off with fairly early in the game is this one. Now, I'm going to admit this right up front. When you first get this truck, it's a bag of shit. The thing can't go through mud worth of hell. But once you level up to a certain point, you can get better tires on it. You can get a better motor. And you can put extra lights on it so you can actually see. But once you get those good tires and that extra motor, this thing is unstoppable. Like this thing will pull out a full-size truck. Not many scouts can do that. Where this is like almost like an off-road truck, but it's a scout. The only thing is this truck is fairly slow, so I wouldn't use this primarily for scouting. I would use this more along the lines of like a recovery unit. If you're playing online with someone and they need help to pull out a small truck or something, use this thing because it'll pull it out. I haven't really tested how much it can pull out, but I've pulled out several full-size trucks with this in deep mud, and it did fine. Now, say a heavy truck with cargo, fully loaded, I'm not sure if this would be able to pull it, but I haven't tested that. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to choose this one and show you some of the customizations for trucks. Since this is an early truck that you'll get in-game, might as well show you what kind of things you can add to it. Now, this is the stock. Okay. This is the stock engine. It's already good, but might as well put something better in it. Where the only thing that's really changing is that your fuel efficiency might go down a little bit, but go up. Which with engine types it varies. It varies per truck, but there are certain trucks that share the same engine. So if you find an upgrade like while scouting, you can actually press it'll say like show truck list, and it'll show you the different types of trucks it's meant for. So say if you pick something up and you have 2 trucks on that truck list, sometimes you might have to choose what truck that goes on. Sometimes the upgrade is actually unlocked to purchase. It varies. But anyway, there's different types of engines for every truck. There's multiple engines. Sometimes it requires a certain rank to unlock. Sometimes you have to go to a certain region to find it. And depending on the engine, it can give you more power, it can give you more durability, less durability. It changes the stats of the truck. The gearbox, I haven't had a problem with keeping it at the stock gearbox, but just because these ones are locked doesn't mean, like, because I've had almost every gearbox type so far. But even the gearboxes will change the stats of your truck. Like this one, it increases the fuel consumption, so that means that you're not gonna have as much time to scout around. But each gearbox type will do a different thing for your transmission. Where um, there's a gearbox type called Snowrunner, where it will give you low range plus and low range minus. So basically, what that does is that you're in low range, and you can either go in low range plus, which goes a little bit faster, or low range minus, which goes a little bit slower. And on top of that, there's also high range, which is sort of like low range, but you need to be going a certain speed before you can switch into that. Otherwise, you stall. Um, there's also a highway gearbox, which is kind of self-explanatory. It just gives you more speed. But in this game, the only time you'd want to have more speed is when you're just basically fucking around. Otherwise, a balanced gearbox will do you just fine. But if you want to experiment and go to change different gearboxes and you have the extra money to do so, go and do it. But in my experience so far, having a balanced gearbox, that's all you need. Suspension, there's several suspension types. There's the stock, there's raised, there's raised custom, I believe. There's active suspension, there's tuned, there's all sorts of different types. I don't know every single one off the top of my head because I don't even know if I've seen all of them yet. But like I've said before, just choose the suspension type based on your terrain. If you pick like a raised suspension type, sometimes it'll make your truck too top heavy, and you go off road. Next thing you know, you're upside down, which isn't always bad. But I mean, you either have to recover or have someone come flip you over. But with a scout truck, there's a winch where even if you do flip over, you can still use your winch, because usually if you flip over it and your engine stalls out and you can't start your engine, you can't use your winch. Therefore, your truck is dead. You either have to find another truck to come flip it over or recover the truck and risk leaving your trailer there, because you can't recover your trailer. Your trailer stays there while your truck goes back to the garage. We've already went over the tires, the winch. There's all sorts of different winch types. There's the stock, which is completely fine. It'll do the job. There's extended, which depending on what type of truck you have, you may or may not have extended, which extended only really increases the reach on how far you can throw your winch, because in bogs it's really hard to find stuff to winch to help you get through it. Advanced is kind of a mix between extended and high power, but the advanced winch is a fairly high level thing. Um, the autonomous one is, even if your engine is stalled, you can still use the winch, which is good for scouts because scouts are mainly made to like plot out like a certain road to get through if you don't know the trail. Like if you're just getting into a new zone, go to the towers, get a feel for the zone, and then start doing jobs for that zone. Now, say if you're doing like a really big job, send a scout first. Make sure you know what trail you're using, that your truck will make it through that trail. Because if you have a really big trailer with a lot of stuff on it and you flip it, you're kind of screwed. Because not a lot of trucks can pick up both a truck and the trailer with all the stuff on it. So send a scout first, make sure you know what trailer you're using. With a high power winch, is basically just the same as a stock, but it's meant to like pull more. Where like a stock scout or a stock winch can basically only winch your truck out. But say if you have a truck plus cargo that's like really weighing down the truck, a high power winch will help you get through it. Snorkels I haven't really found a use for yet because I haven't come across any rivers yet. Keyword yet. But the snorkels are mainly for if you're crossing a river or deep water of any sort. And once you start getting into deep water, it will show you if you're getting too close to flooding your engine, which with a snorkel, it'll help raise that level a little bit more. Sometimes snorkels will do almost nothing. Sometimes it will give you an actual benefit. Where sometimes a so-called snorkel is just an air intake. The air intake doesn't do shit. It's basically just cosmetic. But when you have an actual snorkel on, and it actually raises the point of which how deep your truck can go, which I've seen snorkels go all the way up above a truck where the whole truck could be submerged. But that's what a snorkel's for, just to keep your truck from drowning out. Now, the frame add-ons is everything that you put on the truck, either it be a fuel tank, a crane, a flatbed, anything that goes on the back of a truck. That's what the frame add-ons are for. For scouts, that's either roof racks, for like repair parts, wheels, fuel tanks. But with this one, since it's a bigger scout truck, I could put a service cab or a loading crane. But with the loading crane, be careful because it will tip this type of truck. But frame add-ons, it is basically like this. That's a bear truck. So with frame add-ons, it adds on anything to the back. And now on to cosmetics. With most trucks, you can customize the front bumper, the back bumper, any lights or horns that could be put on. the rims, the color of the truck, the stickers on the truck, uh, inside cosmetics if you like to play first person. Because yes, there is an option for first person in this game, but it's a bit more challenging than I'd like. Like this, the front side, I can only really change if I get the sun visor. Rooftop, you can see that it has the strobe light bar, the fog lights, and if I wanted to, I can kind of mix them together in a way where I have both the fog lights and the beacon. But like I said, with each different truck is going to have different cosmetics. So, although the cosmetics you're seeing here on this truck, they're not going to be the same on every truck. Like the front bumper, it's not going to be the same for every truck. Each cosmetic is going to be different. There will be similarities, but each truck usually has its own unique customizations. But like I was saying earlier, with the front bumper, if you change it, you can see that um, the stock bumper doesn't have any extra lights on it, where this one has extra lights on it. Usually if you see lights on the bumper, usually they'll light up. And then there's the miscellaneous, where you can have extra lights, horns, parking lights. I think there's even like air conditioner units. You can outfit this thing into almost anything you want it to be. You can change the rims if you don't like the look of the rims that are on the truck. Usually I think this is actually goes with every truck, that these are the same rims for every truck on here, because I've yet to see different rim types for a certain truck. Yeah, I like those ones. Okay, so the paint I have on there right now is actually a DLC custom paint job, where if you get like certain packs, I think there's even like free DLC packs. Then there's like these, and then there's like really cheap ones for like $1.99, $2.99, $3.99, whatever. But the colors, it'll paint the whole truck one color, and then sometimes at the very bottom, there's like color combinations where I don't see what this is changing. Oh, okay, I see. The fenders are a different color. Whatever. Um, but usually at the bottom there will be like color combinations. But most of them will be like solid colors. Or if you're got the DLC, you can get like a special color type. And then at the very end we have interior customization and exterior customization, where you can have little bobbleheads if you're driving in first person. Each truck has different customization types, but most of them are fairly the same. All of them have the same stickers. Weird, but okay. Anyway, most of them have the same stickers. And I just found this out recently that uh, there's these trials. I don't know where you start them at, but this is a good thing to work towards, you know, like the little tiny ass hood ornaments. Kind of like your own little personal truck trophy. But that's mainly all the customizations for trucks. I'm trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head that I can really give tips for. I think I've said this before, but learn your terrain. Like, there's a difference between, like, asphalt, dirt, mud. There's all different terrain types. Like, there's a difference between each terrain, and you kind of have to recognize the terrain before going on that road, because sometimes, even though it looks drivable, it could be really deep mud. And if it's really deep mud, more than likely, unless you have off-road tires or mud tires, you're probably not going to make it through. Also, before you start taking on really big jobs, get to know your truck a little bit, kind of know its limitations. Because before you start putting on some like really big machinery onto your truck, like really big trailers, kind of understand the limits of the truck. Now, another thing, although this would be more of a medium sort of thing, but I'm gonna show it anyway. There's actually a way, if you take two trucks, like say if you take an off-road truck and then you take a Scout, like if your Scout's not that fuel efficient but you still want to use it, I think the best option would be taking an off-road truck or a truck that can take a lot, like they can haul a lot, put a fuel tank on it, and then take this truck over to the trailer store. Now this is a tip for like advanced scouting, like if you're scouting into another area, you're going to want this trailer here, the ramped flatbed trailer. It's going to be able to hook onto the back of your truck, so that way it's just like a normal little hitch trailer. Now, one thing to keep in mind with some of these trailers, it has a turning point. So reversing with this type of trailer is a bit challenging. But if you open up your menu for the truck, you can go all the way down to where it says operate and you can drop the ramp. I think at this point you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Now at this point, I'm going to shut off the truck so I don't waste any gas. And this is how you have multiple trucks on at once. You open up the map, you go over to the garage, press R3 to select the marker, and then tap X. Now open up truck storage, go to a scout that you want to have on there, and I'm going to use the little one just to save on time because I really don't want to bother with a big truck. Now a good thing to do is generally put this in low and put all-wheel drive on, so that way it's not going everywhere. And you're going to want to line up the tires. Yeah, this would be a lot harder to do with a bigger truck. There are bigger trailers to haul the bigger scouts, but you would need a saddle for that. So make sure the handbrake is on, turn off engine, and then press change truck, switch over to the big truck, go all the way down to where it says cargo, and press pack trucks. Start engine, wait a second, go down to where it says operate, activate ramp, the ramp will come up, and then there you go. So if you have a small scout, you can do this with this configuration type. If you have a bigger scout, you might want to use the bigger trailer, but then you won't be able to use the fuel tank on the back. So say if it's like a really big area and there's no gas station in that area, you're probably going to want to use this configuration, but if you know that there's a gas station in that area, go with a bigger scout. But using this configuration, you can use the fuel and the fuel tank for the big truck, you can use it for the little truck, it don't matter. Or if you really want to get spicy with it, instead of using this configuration, take the fuel tank off and use a maintenance add-on, so that way it gives you both fuel and repair parts. So that way if you kind of flip your truck and you flip it back over with the autonomous winch, you still have repair parts in order to fix your truck. I think that's all I can really think of off the top of my head for beginner tips. The only thing I can really stress about is when you first start the game, learn the terrain types. When you learn the terrain types, you will start to see the different types of terrain that are around, whether it be normal, like shallow mud, to deep mud, to off-road, to bogs. If you can learn the different types, I think there's even a tutorial on this. If you can learn the different types, you should be good. The other thing, get an off-road truck. The off-road truck will do you good for until you leave Michigan. The other thing is check out the free DLC. I can't remember which ones specifically are free, but I swear there's a DLC for a free truck. If not, the DLCs for free for the trucks. They're fairly cheap. They'll give you an upper hand in this game if you can manage to buy them. That's awesome. But before you buy just all the trucks willy-nilly, be sure you know what truck you're buying, because if it doesn't have an option for all-wheel drive or diff locks, don't even bother getting it. Because if there's a truck that isn't compatible with all-wheel drive and isn't compatible with diff locks, it's not going to make it off-road. Now, if you're in a region where there's a lot of on-roads or dirt roads, fine. It'll do fine. But in this region, there's a lot of mud on the roads. There's a lot of dirt roads that are flooded out. There's a few bogs. But I think that's all the tips I really have off the top of my head right now is learn terrain, get off-road truck, start testing certain things that you might think are impossible, and you probably actually will be amazed at what some of these trucks can do. Because I've literally launched a Scout off a mountain and it rolled the whole way down, and it still was able to just get up and go. I don't understand it, but it worked. But that's the tips I have for right now. Learn terrain, learn your equipment, learn your trucks. The next thing you know, you'll be doing all this stuff on your own. You won't need help at all. But playing this game with other people is a bit more fun than playing it alone. I can attest to that, because up until about level 10, that's when I was playing alone, and then I was like, this game's kind of getting boring. So I started playing co-op, and I believe you can play up to 4 people on co-op. So if you got friends, try to get them into this game, or just find a co-op game and play with random people. Although for some reason people like to start co-op games, and then when people join they just kick them. I don't understand it. But anyway, that's the tips I really have for this game. So if you made it this far into the video and you're not asleep yet from boredom, congratulations, go get yourself a cookie. But that's all the tips I really got off the top of my head right now. So I'm going to be ending it here. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them the best I can. And I'll see you in the next one.